Good afternoon, world. Good afternoon, Kentucky.
Good
Good morning.
afternoon.
How you doing, sis?
I'm doing good. I feel beautiful today.
Well, you look better.
Thank you. It's yes, there's a lot going on. We feeling real good over here right now.
Yeah. What do you got to feel good about? What's going on?
Um, so we have some exciting opportunities coming up here at KYHRC. Our team will be kicking off next week back out in the community. We are partnering with the Louisville community for the unsheltered. Uh, and I'm excited. I'm so excited about that because the partnership is embracing our outreach specialists. So that's like my big one. And then next, Henry, which I'm hoping you can spit on the mic for us. We got prevention and poetry coming up on the 28th, Saturday. And it is going to be on and popping. This event is a fundraiser event. We are going to have poets. We got Casualty that's going to be emceeing. This is open to all ages. So we are definitely saying that our pieces that people are bringing to the stage are going to be for everyone in the group. And we want it to be about prevention. The arts is the space, Henry, as we've been talking about. Arts and activism is huge. And right now, especially this year, us creatives are front and center. So this event, no one wants to miss. It's going to be exciting, and we got some raffles that are going to be out there too. So I cannot wait for us to get this event going.
Sounds great. 2 weeks from this Saturday, Saturday, June 28th, 2 to 5 p.m. in Louisville, Kentucky. You heard it from Shrita. We have prevention and poetry. This is the year that creatives in any industry, in any category, are going to have such a profound impact globally, nationally, and then even within our own state of Kentucky. So come on out and be seen. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's been going on in your world, Henry?
Well, I'm working on this documentary, and we started filming again this week, and I'm really excited about that. And we are highlighting a lot of what we talk about on this podcast has really come to life in this documentary. It will be done by the end of this year, and we talk about all the different consequences and all the different impact that these networks and layers make it so difficult for folks to find their way into treatment and to find their way into recovery. I'm really excited about that. What's going on, Evan?
I saw that. I looked down at my phone and saw that Evan's on here. Hey, friend.
All the
I'm
way,
excited.
yeah, let me say this, Evan, all the way from Denver, Colorado. And we have maybe in 2 weeks the Psychedelic Science Conference that'll be in Denver, Colorado, the second annual conference, the largest psychedelic conference that we know of in the world. So good work, Evan. Keep going, bro. Yes, you will see the documentary.
Yes, I can't wait to see that either. Um, and then, I mean, Henry, you just turned a big new age, so happy belated birthday again.
I don't think like 30 is a big age, right?
Really?
Yeah,
Really? Okay, Henry.
yeah.
Love you too, Evan. So, listen, today I'm also all smiles because, even though we are going to, uh, be talking. We always have deep conversations. Love you too, Evan. We have some deep conversations, and they can be heartfelt and heavy at times. But this one, having our guests on to continue that conversation around youth, the importance of making sure that youth are a part of the conversation, that parents are involved. We can't keep pointing the fingers. We have to look at each other and bringing our communities together. right? I'm excited because we have a community member who's coming from rural Kentucky, Hazard, that's going to be joining us today for this conversation, who has a very heart and heavy story to share, but it is definitely, and it should inspire our people who are watching us. So, what we're going to ask you to do right now, what are we going to ask? Like, share, and comment, you guys. Okay. We need you to share this screen because what we're trying to do on YouTube is we're trying to go live on YouTube as well, meaning in real time, we can actually open it up on YouTube if we have 50 subscribers plus. So let's get that 50 subscriber mark going so that we can continue to share these powerful moments that Henry and I share together in front of you all. So,
And if you have a topic,
yes.
if you have someone that you want us to bring on the podcast, if you want to bring on podcast, reach out to us and
Mhm.
let us know, because we can't do this alone. And for me, often, Shrita, I get so inspired from other people and what they're
Mhm.
thinking, what they're doing, and how they're living our life. So let's co-create this thing together so that we can really bring awareness and bring information and bring real people to have real conversations so that we can continue to decrease the stigma and increase things like love, compassion, and understanding for all people. So,
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Henry. So to continue the conversation, what we've been doing on our podcast is through the month when we do this bi-weekly live taping is to really highlight areas of the work that we do. And so this month we've really been focusing on youth and family. Last time that we aired, and you can go back and check out that on all of our platforms. We were on Instagram, and we had a great conversation talking about the importance of youth focused work and having youth at the table. Uh, this week, we wanted to continue to, I guess, build, right, Henry, on why that's important and having the people at the table. Remember, this is harm reduction.
yeah,
We don't work in silos, we work with our community.
yeah,
And even to just highlight and not to just point you out, Henry, but you shared your experience as a youth going into your journey with substances, and then a dependency issue happening in your life. I think it makes sense for us to continue to talk about that. So I don't know, Henry, have you had any thoughts since that last, before we bring Vanina on the set?
yeah.
What
Yeah,
were
I
your
did. I reflected a lot on that, and one thing I want to say is it's never my intention to shame someone
mm,
or to demoralize somebody. But I also know that how I speak very directly, very clearly, very intentionally sometimes can be perceived as a threat.
mm,
And so if you knew better, you would do better. And part of the knowing how to do better is to see where I'm at and to begin to understand the different ideas, the different concepts, and getting information to help me move forward. That's all,
yeah,
right? And we have to feel that push, and we have to feel that challenge so we can see what's called the dissonance, right? So we can see the dissonance so that we can begin to make different choices that align us with our true morals and our true values um, as Americans, as humans sharing this planet, and I think just as important as Kentuckians. So wanted to share that piece, and this documentary I'm working on. One of the things that we did yesterday, the footage that we got was about a 3 hour interview, kitchen
mm,
table conversation between none other than the queen herself, my mom, and me.
mm,
And part of the conversation was my mother talking about her childhood and her trauma and her substance use and the violence and all the things that she was subjected to as a child, And it's important because she said, I know that I gave some of that to you and your sister. So the other element that we don't necessarily talk about are the generational implications, and how we literally, science has proven genetically that we inherit trauma, we inherit grief, we inherit feelings of shame and guilt. We inherit that from not our ancestors, but more closely um, our parents and our grandparents. So
Mm,
that's another thing that we don't necessarily talk about a lot, but how could we not carry all of those things with us, right?
mm. Those are good points. I really can't wait to see that part. You all sitting at the table. I know that's gonna have me tearful. Um, I think for me, when I was reflecting on 2 weeks ago, I was really thinking about my young people, my 19-year old and my soon to be 24-year old, and I actually had a space of gratitude. You know, we have I guess, like a privilege, Henry, right? That
Yep.
we know we get to practice the things that we share with people, like how to talk to your youth about substances. I know many moons ago when my 19-year-old was a kiddo before he got into his teens, and I remember talking to you and calling you and was stressing like, what am I going to do? I'm going to lose my relationship with my son as my life is changing. And you came back with your calm voice. What does that say for you? It's going to be a different relationship. Yeah, he really did talk like that. But I was thinking about, I often have, if I'm really honest, I kicked my ass a lot when my daughter started experimenting with cannabis and weed, and I was like, what did I do wrong? And I went down the rabbit hole of, then this is what's going to happen to her. This is what's going to happen to her. Next thing you know, she's going to be on the street. And then I sat with that over the last couple of weeks and was like, I have had the opportunity to teach my daughter the importance of having naloxone, having Narcan, and having fentanyl test strips that she was able to save a life 2 years ago at a party. I have been able to have conversations about relationship. That was the other conversation we started having over 10 years ago, about relationship to substance, which really transformed my whole clinical career. When
Yeah.
we kind of changed in the language, and I'm like, I had a conversation about relationship to alcohol. And when I look back from that conversation to now, my daughter's relationship to alcohol significantly changed, almost a 180. What she was bringing in the house, all because we started having these very low barrier, casual conversations around her why. And I didn't know what was going to happen with that. So for the first time in so many years, I really felt like I could pat myself on the back as a parent. I
Yeah.
was like, and it's not that I don't think again about what could potentially happen. It's about I've given my children the tools. So if something do happen, if I have to share a journey of the moms like Vanina or like Naomi or like Ashley, these losses, I can provided access to the tools. Man, Henry, that was such a powerful reflection. Um, I'm grateful that we really sat with this topic and said, let's go into it and let's dive into it because it's important for all of us.
Yeah. And I think with kids, one of the most important things, like if it's my kids or like my kids' friends or my kids' classmates or kids on the t-ball team or whatever is going on, like we're planting seeds, right?
Mm,
But the thing with children versus working with like adults or having my adult friends, it's like you plant a seed with an adult, like you hope that like they have those tools right? To be able to cultivate something that's worth growing and blooming and blossoming. But the thing with kids is you plant the seed and then you have to help them nurture that,
Yeah.
right? And I think the conversation that you had with your daughter and what she did 2 years ago to save a life at a party, that didn't just happen. That's been happening,
Yeah.
right? That's been happening over many years in your all's relationship, and it speaks to,
Sorry. Be
you know,
crying. Yeah.
we don't we don't wait on people to bring us flowers. We plant our own garden,
Mm.
right? So I think it speaks to that of developing really loving, compassionate relationships with kids that's rooted in safety and authenticity, right? And then the seed and then the nurturing along the way, and they learned how to take care of their own garden.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like, I don't really see happening. Like, we'll plant
Yeah.
a seed, just say no, you know dare to keep kids, off drugs. We'll plant the seed, but we haven't really been the best at nurturing those seeds, watering, making sure they get sunlight, and then showing people how to be self-sufficient and have those tools within themselves so that they can ultimately make the best decisions in their life if they get into a challenging or difficult situation.
I think you just gave the perfect segue, you know, for real. Like, don't wait for someone else to give you flowers, plant your own. Listen, I know, right? I know that's such a powerful statement. This is a great segue, Henry, right into, did you want to say something
Well,
before?
yeah, so I want to let me segue into Hazard, Kentucky, and then what I'll let you do is I want you to introduce our new friend and our new colleague, right? Because I think it's important that we lay the groundwork of this part of the country and a part of Kentucky,
Mhm.
Hazard and Eastern Kentucky. And by the way, the opioid crisis did start in Eastern Kentucky.
It did.
Um, it was a result of cultural influence and economic collapse. But just some data that I just quickly pulled off the internet about Hazard, Kentucky, on a few key areas I think that we talk about often, but is going to get covered today, is looking at the overdose death rate in Hazard, Kentucky, which is Perry County,
Mm.
is the average is 23.6 for every 100K Americans, and in Hazard Perry County, it's above 53 people per 100K residents of Kentucky, and it's one of the highest in Kentucky. The poverty rate is 30.5% of individuals in Hazard live in poverty. That is well above the 16% average in Kentucky. It's well above the United States average of 12 to 13%. Hepatitis C prevalence greater than it's 15% among Appalachian folks, which is statewide is a little greater than 2%, and then the U.S. average is 1%. So the hepatitis C rate is higher. And then when we look at literacy, literacy is for adults in Perry County, which is Hazard, Kentucky. It's 43% of folks are level one literacy. The state average is 22%. The average in the U.S. for level one is 14%. And the relative rank is they refer to as being very poor. So we're dealing with a part of not just Kentucky, but we're dealing with a part of the United States that has the highest overdose death rates, the highest poverty rates, highest hepatitis C rates, and the lowest literacy rates. And those are just a few of the data points that really highlight why this part of our country, and more important, the beautiful state of Kentucky, we really need to focus on. So, thank you for letting me share some of those facts with you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really appreciate you sharing it with our community. That's our engage, educate pillar. Thank you for that, Henry. And as Henry was reading off those stats and the data, I am so honored and humbled to be able to bring on our guest, a fierce mama, Vanina Smith from Hazard, Kentucky, a town that knows both the beauty of community and the devastation of neglect. Your son's life mattered.
It did.
And she's made her mission to not allow anyone to forget that, which is a great way for Vanina to join us. As you all know, we are on a mission to never let anyone forget those who have our system has chosen to try to forget. So, welcome, Vanina.
Thank you both for having me. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Yes.
I really appreciate this opportunity to
Well,
be able to speak to all of you.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So we got tissues here.
Yes, we have them. I will
Yes.
need them.
So, Vanina, as we're gonna jump right in. Our podcast is really laid back. Use the language that makes you feel comfortable.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure. Are we sure, Henry? We are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this is a space that you can also say, I need to pause for a minute too.
Yep.
Whatever you need, that's what we are, and our people are here to hear from you. So, if you want to open up, tell us about you and how we got to this point to connect with KYHRC and your son.
I was born and raised in Hazard, Kentucky. Lived there in the beautiful mountains. I did move to Texas, but I've always had one foot in Kentucky because Stephen never left. He would go back and forth, and I also went back and forth. And Stephen was a
Yeah.
He very kind-hearted as a boy and as a man. Loved animals. Loved his sister to death. He taught his sister, as we say, the classics of AC/DC, Metallica, those kinds of things. His sister still does the rock on thing. He super, super smart, which in turn, when you're as smart as he was, leads to boredom, which leads to other things, especially in the Appalachian Mountains, because he was, I would say, sometimes too smart for his own good, which caused a lot of boredom. He loved the mountains. He loved dirt bikes and side by sides, but he also loved chess. And so he was very diverse,
strategic, too.
very, very strategic, very good at what he did. He became a master electrician. So, but at the age of 12, he was living with his father and stepmother, and she exposed him the first time to. He kind of caught her doing something.
Okay.
So, which then that entailed, at 12 and stuff like that. Well, I'm going to say a little bit about the DARE program.
Oh yeah.
So the DARE program came into play, where he went. All kids do it. It was failure. Still is failure. And it's the just say no. Don't do drugs. Don't do this. Don't do that. Well, the policeman comes in. They don't know what they're doing. They just want to check the box and make sure their community gets the money. And then because Stephen lived at that time, Stephen was in the Appalachian Mountains as well. So they were doing the don't say no. But what that did for my son was triggered, well, this sounds good. This sounds like that's something I really want to get into. I want to try this.
Right.
And Stephen was predisposed because, just like Henry was saying, I've had trauma growing up, a lot of trauma. His grandparents on his father's side, because I never knew really my grandparents on my side. They dealt with trauma, drug addiction, the whole bit. So that just fueled Stephen's passion to
Yeah.
figure out how good it could be.
Yeah.
So that started the long the long journey of Stephen, um, breaking the law, something simple, because when you go to jail or prison, and when you break the law, like you're trying to steal copper,
Yeah.
and you go to jail for that. Stephen was in and out of jail for many years. He was in jail one time. He had a 1 year in jail, and they found out he was a master electrician, so he ended up having to rewire
Mm.
the prison for because it was a small one. It was a very small prison. So that there's just like a lot of things that it started. He could never get ahead. I could get him clean, and he could stay with. If he stayed with Mama, he was clean. But
Yeah.
if he ventured out, it always ended up him
Mm.
going back.
Yeah.
So
Whew. Wow. So when did your life change with Stephen? How old was he when he?
Stephen, I had Stephen till 40, so Stephen was 40.
Okay.
But Stephen had decided again to come live with Mama, and I was in the process of buying a house. So I signed, and he was going to move in. We had a treatment center. I had the little book with the sticky I carried with me. He was going to treatment on a Friday. I signed the papers for the new house because I had enough money to get him into the treatment and then get us through until he got us good. I signed the papers on a Friday, and Stephen died that Thursday.
Mm.
So he was he he had this little dog. So we're big animal lovers. I have 4 dogs now. Now I have 4 dogs. And he had this little dog, and he wanted to go see his girlfriend on Thursday morning. And I was like, Stephen, don't do it. Don't do it, Stephen. I said, you've got an appointment at 9 o'clock on Friday to the rehab. Don't do it. I got a bad feeling. Don't do it. And he went and saw her anyway. And we talked back and forth all that day. And then we can say an angel, we can say spirit. I prefer spirit. Stephen was 45 minutes away from me. And he, at 4:30, he stopped contacting. He stopped all contact. And then I knew he had gotten, his drug of choice was, I don't know if this is right, but I want to say white China, heroin laced with fentanyl.
Yeah.
So, and his girlfriend also has the disease, and her father also has the disease.
Mm.
So he had gone there, and um, he at 4:30, I heard at 4:30 it stopped. Then at 6:30, I heard a voice tell me, "Fill up your car with gas." Then at 12 o'clock, I heard, "Don't turn your phone off," because I usually turn my phone off at night.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, don't turn it off, don't turn it off, don't turn it off. And 12:30 they called. So they called he was 45 minutes away, and they had gotten, um, so I took off and started going to his location. His girlfriend and him had gotten a hold of the White China, and we could say, so I had, and I know this isn't the girlfriend's fault, but I also know that they were not compatible.
Mm-hmm.
And she also has witnessed me running her out of my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a mama bear, I'm a mama dragon. So I go and I have thrown her literally out of my house. And so I rushed to the scene. Stephen had overdosed in the bathroom. She used 3 Narcans on him, but I think she was passed out too. I'll never know.
Okay.
But what happened was when I pulled up, the police circled me
Mm.
because she had told them that I would be mad.
Oh yeah.
And she was right. But you can't do anything when they circle you.
Yeah.
You can't do nothing.
Right.
And the detective, I finally got them to let me walk past the thing. I wanted to see Stephen, they wouldn't let me, and I'm glad I didn't. But uh, I talked to the girl. I told her that, you know, I can't, I don't blame her because at the end of the day, she has her disease and now she has to live with that the rest of her life.
Yeah.
And the detective had the nerve to tell me that Stephen had bought it where I was and that he had drove to the city to use it. And I explained to him that when you have this disease, you don't wait 24 hours
Right.
to use it. You use it there. And his case is open, um, but I'm not pursuing anything because
Okay.
the girl is also, she's a victim as well. There's a lot of variables. And
Yeah.
why would you waste your energy on something that all it's going to do is put people in the prison system, which in turn gets money to the government. I mean, that's how I see everything.
Yeah.
So I got through it.
You did. You did. Henry, did you have anything? I'm holding Benita's hand.
Yeah. Thank you, Benina, for um, being a dragon mama. And I know personally for me the impact that my mom has had on my life and when I was actually using and God bless the mamas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you make a point that we still need more intervention
Mm-hmm.
on the law enforcement level, that we still need education,
Mm-hmm.
that we still need some coaching, and we still need some implementation of how to work with a grieving mother or how to work with grieving community members, what to say, what would be appropriate or not appropriate, and even just basic understanding of what addiction is and how does it really, right? I mean, I use where I bought it from.
Right. I mean, everybody knows that. Everybody should know that. Yeah.
And part of that was because I knew I wouldn't be sick. Like I knew that
Mm-hmm.
I would be okay. I didn't prefer to use in my car or at the dealer's house. I mean, it wasn't comfortable, but when we're in that mind state, we'll do anything that we can possibly do to get immediate relief.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask a question, really more so to help our audience and help moms and dads and families, teachers, administrators, really anybody that no one wakes up and says, "This is the life that I want for myself,"
Mm-hmm.
right? And that you already spoke to your son, and you spoke to how kind and how beautiful and big-hearted and how smart, and you already spoke to like who he really is. And so it's a progressive, chronic, fatal condition. And it's important when we talk to our youth, and we talk to parents, that we really highlight it's progressive, right? Like again, no one experiments with the first substance ever. It's usually not one of the hard illicit substances. It's usually nicotine. It's usually cannabis in some variety. Um, so I'm curious for us and for the audience. Again, if you know the answer, can you speak to a little bit of the progression of your son's disease? Like what age? Where did he start? Like what was he using, and how did it get to the point at 40 years old where he's using his preferred
Mhm.
substance is China White that is um, mixed with fentanyl.
Yeah. Correct.
So, from what I can gather, it was the opioid crisis. So we had the opioid crisis in the mountains, of course, as
Yep.
you testify. I'll say testify because to me it's testifying. Testimonial
Yeah.
earlier about that. So it started off as a pill, and then it started progressing, and then I found needles, spoons, and and then it progressed to heroin. And Stephen had been I am the mama dragon because whenever Stephen lived with me, he was clean. So we were able to, but for him, he was embarrassed that he lived with his mother.
Mm. Mm.
So he was like, because Stephen never married and he never had children. Because he was like, first of all, he did not want to give his child this disease.
Mhm.
And then he just, um, the girls that he went with. I mean, you know how it is. There were some good girls, some bad girls. It's just like anything else. And he would. I mean, his biggest downfall was. I think part of it was he was ashamed to live with his mom. And then because I tried to explain to him that he didn't have to live forever with me, but he needed, like, Stephen went 7 years in sobriety.
Wow.
And then he turned around and did another 2 years in sobriety. So Stephen had it, but it was just a dragon, this other dragon
Mhm.
on him. We would sit closer to before Stephen passed, and he would tell me, he goes, Mom, he goes, the first time I ever got high, he goes, it was the best high of my life.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
he goes, I have chased that high
Since then.
since then. And he goes, it's never, ever been the same. And he goes, I will chase it and chase it and chase it. And he would have triggers. Like if he saw a show where somebody had a doctor and had a needle,
Mhm.
that would get him like, I want that. I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And so we would talk in depth. And it did. So I went the whole gamut of, just say no because fortunately for me, this is never anything that I've ever had to deal with, and my daughter has never had that either.
Mhm.
And I would say, nope, just say no, you can't do this. I personally had driven Stephen to jail
Mhm.
to serve his 6 months because I was like, this is the right thing to do. This is what the government. We're good people. We are good citizens.
Mhm.
This is what we're going to do. And he would beg me to stop and let him get one more high before
Wow.
we would go there. So I,
You were actually with him.
yeah. So I did the gamut.
Yeah.
And then you would have people come, um, your so-called friends or friends, and they would tell you, just kick him out.
Mhm.
My kids are never going to do that. I can't believe you're enabling this. It's just say no,
Mhm.
just be done. And now a lot of those friends have been, you know,
Pulled us out.
backtracking. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I went through the whole thing. Stephen stealing, Stephen doing this, us going to treatment centers, um, us doing the whole thing
Mhm.
Yeah.
together.
How old would you say Stephen was the first time he used a
Yeah.
substance?
I would say close to 13 or 14
Wow.
Yeah.
because um, he was so smart that they were testing him for MIT.
Mhm.
And he just started using. and the opiates.
And so, Henry, that's a question that it keeps coming up for me, right? As we're thinking about the age, what's accessible. I'm curious, right? If we're talking about the progression, how Stephen got to, and can you share for the audience what year Stephen passed?
September 16th, 2022.
Okay, September 16th. Forever 40.
Forever 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know I don't want to interrupt, but people will tell me at least you got 40 years.
I'm not saying that to you. I'm not going to say that at all. Because right, I know you're looking like, you know, our audience is a lot of allies and co-conspirators. They're not going to say that on here. What? Give me a feel of what. So Henry did this great introduction about Hazard. I know how beautiful Hazard, but what resources were available then? Now you're talking about, you know, back when he was.
So it would be, what years was that?
13, what's that?
90s?
90s?
In the 90s.
Yeah. Because I'm 46. So
okay.
You know. So what resources and access and support around substance use and prevention was there then and then now?
So there were no resources there, and I will tell you exactly. Now this is just me. Nobody's ever told me this. Mm-hmm. I cannot verify it, but every part of my soul and being will tell you how. Stephen was living with his father. His father married this lady. This lady was going to the doctors and saying she had a back problem, and she was getting oxy.
Yep. Yeah, and so we talked about how that started.
And so she was getting oxy all the time. It was constant. And then Stephen saw her. So Stephen had the DARE program. I keep bringing up the DARE, and I don't know.
That's relative. That's relevant.
It's very relative.
Yeah.
Because Stephen had gone and he'd watched, and they had told him all this stuff. And guys, I use my hands a lot. So then, then he's got his stepmother, and she's using, and he sees her, and then for me, what my gut tells me, I'll never know for sure. So he took a pill. He snuck one of her pills. Mm-hmm. And then he started hanging out with people, because it's so, at that time, and I don't know how it is now, but at that time, the opiates were so easy to get.
Yeah.
And Stephen was absolutely one of the lost humans, one of the lost souls to this epidemic that started. So he's right there, Henry.
In the epicenter during the time that it all popped off.
Mm-hmm. And look at that. Look at how far, though, because you got to think about it. Stephen was a teenager and passed away at 40. Look how far. And we've been in this war on drugs with the DARE program. That was the resource. That was the prevention in Hazard and primarily throughout the states, right?
All states.
Right.
Every state. That was it.
Eastern Kentucky has to be one of the most beautiful places in the country, and I'll put it up there in parts of the world that I've been to. And Verena is not lying when she says there's no resources. This part of the country is absolutely desolate when it comes to resources. And the reason I asked about the age, and the reason that Sharita is asking about accessibility, and Verena is talking about the availability of OxyContin and prescription drugs, those are the most predicting risk factors for developing a severe substance use disorder into not just adolescence, but into early adulthood and beyond. And so we know that the earlier a child experiments with any substance, even nicotine, okay, we can't leave that out, even nicotine increases their likelihood significantly to use other more illicit drugs. And the availability at this time in our history, you could get OxyContin faster and quicker than you could marijuana,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's important that we're able to highlight that, and not only the accessibility but also the availability.
Yeah.
I mean, it was in everyone's medicine cabinets. Every adult had not every, but a lot of adults had prescriptions, and particularly in this part of the country, in this part of Kentucky, because it was really seen for poor folks as a resource.
Mm-hmm.
It was right because again, like if we don't have nothing, we get really creative on how we're going to make our ends meet, right? And so I
Well,
think economically, I think that was seen as an opportunity for a lot of folks to make money or to barter and trade and get certain things that they needed. Because, like I shared at the very beginning, Hazard is not only one of the poorest areas in Kentucky, it's one of the poorest areas in the United States.
Yeah.
well, and then I think the big pharma, targeted Eastern Kentucky
Absolutely.
with the coal miners. So
Yep.
you had big pharma coming in there, telling people, oh, this is not addictive. This is going to help your back. This is going to do
Mm-hmm.
this. This is going to do that. And part of the problem was big pharma as well. And you have that going in there. And I, I love Eastern Kentucky. They're too, they can be, at that time too, you're trustworthy. You want to believe your doctor because the doctor's been sold a lie by big pharma.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you turn around and that happens. And so the people in Eastern Kentucky, they strive and they will make it through anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They are the greatest people I've ever been.
Yep.
I've ever been around in my life. And they will take you in and they will help you. But when it comes to this is the part where people don't like talking about this.
And I was gonna ask, do you feel like rural and Eastern Kentucky, since we are really highlighting that area,
Mhm.
do you feel like rural voices are being heard in the overdose
Absolutely not.
epidemic?
So there's a stigma, and that's the part of the reason with Eastern Kentucky, and West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, but I really want to focus on Eastern
Yeah.
Kentucky. They have been, I don't know when it was because I'm a little bit of a history buff and I don't want to go too far back with y'all, but um, you know, they have been stigmatized. It's like, oh, you're a hillbilly, you're stupid, you're this, you're that. That's farther from the truth. But they don't. They will take care of their own. Hillbillies take care of their own.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go and ask for all this help. So then people are like, okay, they're not going to do this. Well, they're stupid. And so they keep, it's this horrible cycle that goes. And you have to have that voice because people don't like, there's been so many things that's targeted. Like people will go there and they'll, do a documentary or they'll do this or they'll do that, not knowing they think it's going to be a great documentary, but it turns around and it's really just it hurts. It's what it does.
I definitely have seen that, but it always every time I hear our brothers and sisters from Eastern Kentucky talk about just exactly how you said it, it makes me think about Charles Booker's book, From the Hood to the Holler, and how similar, right? When we talk about Black communities, it's the same dynamic. It's like, you're stupid, you don't know. So it's when I hear that, I'm always like, that feeling of being othered and pushed to the side and forgotten, and in the shadows we share that. What would it look like for us to include parents from places like Hazard in policy making, not as props, not as tokens, but as partners, right? We're very intentional, as you can see, even in our email to you. We are not tokenizing. We really try to be mindful because I think both of us have experienced what tokenization can look like. Oh, Henry, you have a story. It's about you. And now we're going to highlight, it becomes about that person. If you're a Black woman, we're going to tokenize you to be the only. So we're really intentional about that. So one of our projects that we've been working on and we finally gotten traction on this last year was about expanding.
Mhm.
And a lot of our brothers and sisters outside of the counties that we put on the application were reaching out to us saying we need help. But again, I'm actually from the city of Chicago, the South Side. Like, so I'm not even like, I'm a city girl. No pun intended, y'all. But I'm a city girl. So I really am like, how do I really connect? How do we do that and not tokenize and say, well, yeah, we're just going to make you the poster child. How do we engage and what is that? What could that look like?
Well, it's more of a so it for me and just being from that area, it's listening to them, but it's also education.
Mm.
So you have a lot of people that, especially their grandson, their granddaughter, their child, their a family member, they will tell you they'll be like, "Oh, she died of a heart attack,"
Okay.
because they don't want the stigmatization.
Mm-hmm.
And we are talking about Southern Baptists, and we're talking about all these other things. And so for me, it's education. It's educating and being free, and to be able to not let that person that you love dearly is voice die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, he died. My son died of an overdose, and I won't shut up. So education. We love Stephen. Lived and breathed the mountains, and just to see people suffer, because I can spot somebody a mile away, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart to see them that way. But if we had people that felt free enough to talk to people like me, all these people to talk, and then I think it's also like with the education, and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid. And, it's a scary thing when you see that your child may be using or doing something. That's super, super scary.
Yeah.
And you have nobody to reach out to there. Your family is the only one and then most of the time they're like, God will pray it away. We'll pray for you, baby. We're going to pray and it'll be all right. But that's not, God's going to help, but you got to help yourself.
Yeah.
And so, but you've got to have resources to help yourself. Right. And then the other challenge for me when I think about this is having the strength, the mother to have the strength to reach out and say something is wrong. Help me.
Whew.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers there.
I'm sorry, I just rattled.
No.
No. I mean, you're kind of highlighting what is it going to take to sort of open this up for people in your community, people in our community, people in that are living in communities that are audience members that are listening now, that are hopefully following us, like, share, and subscribe. It's important, because no one's coming to save us.
No.
Like if that were true, it would have already happened. And so it takes a grieving mother, and it takes folks that have real lived experience, professionally and personally, coming together, doing something radical from a place of like love and persistence and not giving up. That's going to be what changes the narrative. It won't be our government. It won't be our treatment centers. It won't be our law enforcement. It will be us, because it's always been us in our collective communities. I have a question. I want to I want to go back. How many times do you know of, or how many times do you suspect that your son went into some sort of treatment center or treatment process, whether it was like medication or was like a 12-step meeting or like a 30-day residential treatment center?
I took him to all of them, so I can pretty much tell you.
How many? What number would you put it on? I know where Harry's going with this. What number would you put on?
This last one that he was supposed to go to would have been his seventh. Between 7 and 10. somewhere in there. It would have been that. That's his. He. God, it may be more than that
Mm.
because I remember taking him to so many of them, and some were 30 days, some were 60 days, some were 90 days. And then I also took him to all of his AA meetings because he didn't have a driver's license.
Mm.
So he depended on me to get him back and forth because they had taken his driver's license away and he was working to get it back. So at least that many, if not more, that I can recall off the top of my head.
You want to tell our audience why I would ask that question, Shrita?
No, I want you to tell them.
I'm sure it's more than that.
Yeah, it could.
Our current model of treatment in Kentucky, and I'll say United States, but I'm going to focus on Kentucky because that's kind of really what we're highlighting today. A treatment, the addiction treatment model is a tragedy and travesty and has contributed to a large number of why people have died. Sure, ultimately it's our choice. It's the choices that we make, but an addicted brain is highly influenced by survival based mechanisms. But our treatment centers are not preparing folks for life after they leave.
No.
People from the recovery communities that are working in these treatment centers are being exploited. These treatment centers don't pay their staff enough or take care of their staff, and they are profiting millions and millions of dollars. It's increasing taxpayers annually in the amount of money that we pay for specifically for like Medicaid. Um, Last year, the biggest addiction treatment provider in Kentucky billed over $130 million in Kentucky Medicaid money, and they are currently being investigated by the FBI.
They sure are. I know what you talk about.
And they were even endorsed by our governor.
Right.
And I'm not here to shame anybody. I'm not here to tell anybody what they're doing is wrong. I'm solely looking at the data that has been presented, and I use my lived experience as someone in long term recovery who has overcome the opioid crisis, and someone who is a licensed and very skillful clinician. So that is the deal. It is undeniable, and there has to be multi-level change
Yeah.
across all of these systems. And you can disagree with that, but you really need to find solid facts and solid information. There has to be a complete change and overhaul of all of these systems. People have unnecessarily been killed as a result of lack of love, lack of compassion, lack of empathy, lack of access to resources. I've worked at places before where clients' rights, human rights, were violated because they would lie to clients in these programs, saying that if they left, they would call the police, or if they left, they would not get their wallet, their social security card, their ID, their cell phone. That they wouldn't call their parents to come get them from these treatment centers. And these are an absolute violation of human rights. It completely takes away the agency and the voice, even for someone who may choose to use drugs. And it is not only unethical, it is completely illegal. And I hope all of you receive what it is that you've been putting out into our communities. It's sickening, it's disgusting, and you all have what you got coming to you. And I'm not here to judge.
No,
I'm just looking at the information.
that's facts, and I think you did that perfectly. See why I said for you to say it, because it is. We all have a day of reckoning, and it is a travesty. I am in us being in harm reduction, which is a part of the ecosystem, and us being clinicians, being in this work, having the opportunity to really see, highlight, so to speak, those harms before in these other clinical spaces, it has been very eye opening for me. And every is what I did, especially in my first year in this role, was make amends and really lament over some of the harms that I inflicted being a part of systems that told me this was the way to handle our people. So yeah, knowing how many times a person has gone through treatment, and that is a voice that we are continuing to elevate when it comes to policy change, and looking at the policies that need to be changed and implemented so there's oversight. Because if I can't just go to the dentist in and out of the dentist office twice a year, I can't even go. How many times can you even go? You only get 2 cleanings a year, and you have so much time you can use.
One X-ray.
Exactly. Why are we so open to people being in a revolving door?
And because of the money.
Exactly. So I'm glad that it's being highlighted and exposed, because we do, everyone in this work have to answer to the human lives that have been lost. These are not just numbers.
There are other illnesses
Mm-hmm.
where the illness is like no longer in remission, right? There's like no sustained remission. And it's almost like someone that has had cancer and they receive treatments, and then the cancer comes back, and when they go back to their doctor or the hospital or whatever, the doctor doesn't say you must not want this.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's your fault
Yeah.
that this happened. You did something wrong.
Again, I don't want to dismiss the power of choice that we all have in our lives, and right, we have to start taking accountability. I think that is huge. That people and places, institutions have to start taking accountability. I'm saying right now, in the state of Kentucky, when it comes to all things addiction, we are in a great reckoning. There is going to be a lot of collapse, and there's going to be a lot of space for folks that are informed, that are leading with science, to come in and take over, not take over, but to collaborate and to move a lot of these things forward in a way that is really person centered,
Absolutely.
science focused. So,
And it takes voices like yours, right, Vanina, to elevate this. So as we're moving through, and we're moving through quick, and it's because we're having such a really good conversation. There's a couple of things. Um, your voice, the strength in your voice, has catapulted you to work on an upcoming. Henry's got a documentary. You're working on some work with a documentary. What's keeping you rooted in this fight? Like, what is it that keeps you rooted, keeps you still? I know Stephen does, but what keeps you going in this fight?
I feel like, for me, I have a big mouth, I guess, and I also, and this is maybe a little spiritual on you guys, and I'm trying not to, but so when I worked, I worked at a technology company for 25 years, and just a little bitty hillbilly working at a technology company, and I started off like as an administrative assistant. Well, then it turned into this, and then it turned into this, and then it turned into this, and then it turned into this. And then at one point in time, I'm on a stage talking to 5,000 sales reps. And then I'm everything is thrown at me. Everything is thrown at me. So when I look back on that experience, it got me ready for this.
Okay.
Yep.
That's exactly what it did.
And I could not believe that I would be thrown. It was, you must rehearse. You must, and I would think people were the crazy. I just thought they were nuts, and they would be like, it's part of your job. You're going to learn to do it. And oh, by the way, we need you up here. Oh, go up here and do this and talk to these people and do this and do this. So I spiritually, that's why I had the job, is to talk about this and to be able to. There's a lot of mothers that can't.
Yeah.
And I still have a hard time, and I always will. But I do have that voice. I have been educated enough to speak in public, to talk to a lot of people, or to talk to one person at a time.
Wow.
And some moms can't do that. Some moms are so. I've met a lot of moms, and Stephen's death, would be 3 years in September. And some moms, it's only been a year or 6 months, and some moms, it's been 5 years, and they still are in the same spot of grief. And I think this helps heal my grief as well, because I do not want my son's death to go unnoticed, but I also don't want a mom or a dad or an auntie or a sister or brother to go through this again, not being educated.
That's what I was gonna say. You were naturally going to this, but I wanted to give you a space to really use this moment as we're heading to our wrapping up these last 10 or 15 minutes. If there is someone listening right now who has a child um, that they may consider as lost right now,
Mm-hmm.
who's experiencing what you experienced when your baby was a teenager. There's a lot of moms that do watch this who have not reached out. I've gone into space to give my number. They don't call. They don't want to talk about it. What would you say to them right now, like looking at this camera?
So, if you're a mama going through this right now, and you've found things, and we all know what I'm talking about. You have found certain things. Money's come missing, jewelry's come missing, all these other things. Denial is your worst adversary. If you keep denying and you don't, um, so first you have the denial. Don't deny it, and reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. Reach out to reach out to Rita, to Henry, because if you ignore it, it is not going to go away. It is only going to get worse. And when you ignore something, but also you can't charge in there like a bull. You cannot go, you've got to stop doing this right away. You're doing, it's easy. Just don't do it anymore. That's not the answer. That's not the answer to any of that. You're going to have love, compassion, and education. Once you can get educated with what the next steps are and how to approach, like you were talking about earlier, how your daughter has saved a life, it's education. And then I'm not saying this is easy by any means, but it's better than me sitting here. It's better than losing your child. So it's a long path and it's a long journey, but you can get through it. But the first part is taking that first step, not denying what is happening, realize what is happening, because we all know what the signs are. You know what the signs are. And then just reaching out, and it's okay, because some moms, dads, whatever, are like, my child would never do that. My child would never do that. When all the evidence is laying right here that they are. How do I say this? They don't grow up. Let's see. I want to show you if I have it. Hold on, guys. Sorry. This little boy didn't want to be a drug addict. So I was a single mom for a long time. And when you deny and you put your head in the sand, it is the worst thing that you can do. And you may have people telling you may have family members, you may have friends telling you, I don't understand, either kick them out or tell them to quit. It's just that easy. They're living under your roof. It's not that easy. This is a journey that you must take with your child. And acknowledgement is key.
You're not alone.
No, I'm sorry. You're not
You're
alone.
not alone.
No.
That's Vanina has jumped into this with us. We officially met her last week. virtually, and she is now becoming a partner on this journey with us. There's no real prevention without real voices. There's no real prevention in Kentucky, especially with Kentucky Harm Reduction Coalition leading those efforts without everyone being at the table. That's how it works. We don't leave anyone out because how dare we say we're here for the community and someone's left off the table. As Henry said earlier, we need folks on these platforms because this is real life. It's how we show up as family, how we are amplifying better together, right? Or we get there together. These are slogans that have come down from our government. If we're better together, if we're going to get there together, if we've got to stick together, this is how we do it. The war on drugs continues to fail every zip code, every zip code, but especially it fails the ones no one is watching. And grief is not a gateway to punishment. It should be a pathway to prevention. We get it. There's moments that moms embrace the anger of what has
Mhm.
happened. How do we stop this from happening and continuing? So, what do you have, Henry? What are some call to action, or what do you think we could throw out there for our community this week um, as we wrap up?
Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon and being raw and real. Um, and I really appreciate you and just noticing. Um, I can't think about your grief without thinking about my grief and all the people. And I don't say that to make your story about me, but to say the countless lives that are no longer with us. Most of them, it's unnecessary. How can people find you?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's like, wait a minute. Yes,
Nobody's asked me that question before.
We imagine some folks may want to reach out, especially the parents,
Mhm.
as they listen to you. So this is recorded and people can access this forever on our Spotify, YouTube, and on our social media platforms.
So right now, I just have Facebook,
Mhm.
and then I have you can email me as well,
Okay.
and I think my Facebook. Guys, I have to look at it because I was not prepared for that question. But
What's your Facebook, and then what's your email? And you can just share that open again if you feel
yeah,
comfortable. You can share that openly so that people can
yeah.
receive that.
So my email is V as in Victor, EN Smith 16 at Gmail. And then just look for me on Facebook under Vanina Smith.
Okay.
And you'll see. So I had to do a little soul searching, and I went to Sedona. We'll talk about that another time. And so you'll see pictures of Sedona on
Okay.
my Facebook. But I would love to hear from some of the moms. I'd love to hear from some people. I would love it.
And we'll make sure to tag Vanina in this when our social media, when our media strategist posts, we'll make sure to tag your Facebook as well.
And you have a book too.
No.
Oh,
No.
I'm sorry. I thought you had. You said.
No, this was Stephen's. Yeah, this was Stephen's little journal. I take it with me, and he was an electrician, so he it's all of his notes. So it's kind of like a reminder. And his little there's this little sticky.
So that was the sticky note right before
Yeah,
he was going into the
treatment center. Yeah. So that's what that is. So
Can you give us Stephen's full name?
Stephen James Patrick.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So listen up, you guys. Thank you for joining us today as we sat and shared space with Vanina with another by any means conversation where we are unfiltered, unbothered, um, unbound, unbought, all the things. Um, we want to make sure that you walk away from these feeling like you got something. Again, I want to encourage folks to send us your topic ideas. Send us things that you want to talk about. And if you are a mom or a dad, a parent who wants to come in and share and even bring a youth on this platform with us, we want to have those conversations too. Um, Remember to like, share, comment, but also subscribe to our podcast because we got a lot of things planned for you guys coming up this summer. More conversations, taking deeper dives. And I think we're ready to close out.
Yeah, one final thought. I forgot to mention this. Happy Father's Day
I'm so
to all the fathers, and maybe that's just for me, you know.
sorry.
Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there that
Happy,
are doing the best they can. Happy Father's Day to the dads that are incarcerated. Happy
yes.
Father's Day to all the other people that are playing fatherly roles in children's lives. You matter, and you have really an important part in the development of our children. So, um, yeah, I couldn't leave that out.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are about to get out.
See y'all. Take care.